How's it going, everybody? My name's Nate and I'm with Shine On Consulting, and I'm going to go through a quick overview of what the Syncari platform offers through all the different sections and give you a brief summary of what they all do. So the first thing you'll notice when you log into a Syncari platform is that you're going to have the Synapse Studio show up. Essentially what this is where you connect all of your different programs that have data that you would like to input into your Syncari database. And more or less, it's kind of like a visual where you can see a mind map or something of this nature, where you've got all these different programs that Syncari offers on the right-hand side available that you can go ahead and integrate into your Syncari and push the data from those platforms into your own database where it's going to be all unified. I believe there is an opportunity to create custom integrations. I'm not quite certain how to do that, so I'm not going to discuss that too much. The next section that we're going to be looking at here is the Schema Studio. So once you've started to connect some of your third-party programs, you're going to have the ability to create a schema for all the fields and objects that exist within those separate platforms and make sure that they can somehow unify into a singular record, which would be under this Syncari schema here. But if you were to click on this option on the top left, you'll see that there are the different programs you have connected available for you to select from. If we want to look at what kind of this translates to, I'll use the example of Salesforce. You can see here, once I've selected the Schema Studio for my Salesforce Synapse, I have all the available objects here through the different page. And once I go ahead and click on any one of those objects, or as Syncari calls them, entities, I can click on the fields option on the far right, and it'll show me the different fields that are available with some details about what those fields are. The next section here is really where I think of all the magic happening. It's called the Sync Studio, and you'll see all your entities here. Again, we can use the terminology of objects, but Syncari calls them entities. And these are all the areas where you're going to create pipelines where you're going to use different functions and sequence of actions so that you can have that data automated and transformed and unified and spit back out to the respective platforms if you want. So this is really where a lot of the work is going to be taking place for your pipeline creation, more or less how you're going to have that data flowing. So let's say, for example, if I want to look at my lead entity, I can see here that I've got some pipeline created already. And here's an option of Salesforce being the source where the data is starting. And as it passes through all these different functions that I've created, they're all doing something different and transforming the data so that by the time it lands into my Syncari Synapse, I've got a clean record and I can create as many of these connections as I would like to. So you can see here, if I wanted to do my HubSpot, I can also start to create a series of functions. And I can pass everything through these custom pipelines so that they can lead into the Syncari database. And there's lots of customizations that can be done here. If you ever have questions and want to get deeper into it, please feel free to reach out to us, or you're also able to see some of our other videos where I dive deeper into some pipeline creations so you can get some ideas of what can be done here. This next section is called the Data Studio, and you can think of this as your database. And essentially all of your entities will exist here, so you can select whichever you like. Then you'll have a pretty raw format of data records and all the columns with the data fields. Of course, you can customize the configuration for the table columns. You can also use filters to find specific information or isolate records that you want to look at that meet a certain criteria. If you wanted to edit individual records, you can also do that here. I do not believe at the moment there is the capability to do mass edits within Syncari, but it shouldn't be necessary if you've got pipelines created that keep your data clean and unified. Another piece to note here is that there's reference data included, and you're able to add in custom reference data. You can think of reference data as CSVs filled with data that has different columns and different rows that will essentially allow you to manipulate your own data and create transformations or automate some process based on values that exist in one system, and maybe you want to transform it into the value that exists on another system. So reference data is really, really powerful, and I highly suggest getting familiar with this so that you can then end up having some pretty awesome pipelines created. The next section here will be the Data Quality Studio. It's a pretty cool feature. I believe Syncari has plans in the far future to do a little bit more here, but don't quote me on that. I'm just a partner through them and an individual who likes to use it in my own unique use case. The way that I see the Data Quality Studio being very powerful is that it allows you to assess your data and where it stands based on specific rules that you configure. And there's different options to view your data quality. You can do it through an overview option, or you can select an individual entity. And from here, you'll be able to see how you actually start to transform and get yourself some sort of a data fitness index, which is a score. So we can see here, let me look at another option, account, for example. This has some conditions that have been set up through rules that will more or less read the data that I have being put into Syncari and give it a score based off what I define as being a high or a low impact criteria. So for example, if I look at the industry field here, I can see that it's a 93.5. If I want to take a look at what the rules that I have that are making that score populate, for me at the moment, I've got camel case. If the value is camel case, then it's going to impact it in a positive way, but it's only going to be a low impact. If it has a value at all, it's going to be a high impact. So you can come up with a lot of very unique conditions that will allow you to make your data score be a little bit more useful for whatever your use case is. But it's a very time-consuming process here, and you really got to think about how you want to make these rules configured, and then you can get yourself some scores, which hopefully leads to the ability to make some strategic business decisions based off what you think is high priority for your initiatives, for your processes, what have you. This next section we're going to look at is one of my personal favorites called the imported files. You can think of this as creating your own custom synapse of unique entities, and you can have a CSV file and put in whatever information you want in there, pump that into the imported files, and now it's available for you to use inside of different functions, which will ultimately allow you to manipulate your data and create some very unique experiences that allow you to get some powerful transformations taking place. The next section here is the logs or the transactions. Really, you think about this as kind of like an audit center. You can see what kind of transactions are taking place. If you have some sort of change take place in your Syncari, you can see what's going on here. So for example, on this top item, we can see that there was a new record created in Syncari. If I want to see what actually was changed, I can open up the menu. Now I'm seeing the different fields. What was the source value? What was the old Syncari value? What is going to be the new Syncari value? So this is great for testing your different pipelines that you create to make sure that they're working properly, or in general, just to see what's taking place so you can understand how did my data become the way it is. This next feature is one of Syncari's newer. It's called Synapse Studio, and currently it is an upgrade option, so you'd have to request a demo directly with Syncari, and they'll go ahead and walk you through how to get this set up, what's going to be the criteria, if there's any costs associated with it, et cetera, et cetera. But more or less, you can imagine if you're going to have a central hub for your data, this is going to be the place where you can hopefully get some very reliable numbers around the different objects, or as we call them in Syncari now, entities. And it's a great place for leadership to get some insights and really understand through cross-platform analysis of all the data, what's the situation more or less. So another really powerful tool here, don't know too much about it personally because I don't have access to this, but something that if you were interested to know more, definitely reach out to Syncari and they'll help you out with that. Some of the general features you can obviously expect is that if you've got multiple instances, you'll be able to see them here and select and change between them. You've got a notification bell, which is going to let you know what kinds of changes are happening, whether you just initiated a new sync, who initiated it, at what time, when that sync has been completed, or any other notifications that you can expect in some sort of platform similar to this. Any questions that you have specifically around problems that you might run into, it's really a great option to use the help icon, which will take you either to a help center, which is more or less a forum with lots of different articles that have been created, both through the community and directly from Syncari staff. You've got the option to do a chat support. They're very responsive in my experience, so I think this is a great way to get some support if you've got an issue with some sort of customization that you're putting into place or whether a feature doesn't seem to be making sense to you. Then there is also the Syncari Academy, and at the moment it's pretty thorough with going through the full overview of what the platform offers, how to leverage it, and things of that nature. So this is a great feature here to leverage if you have information that you don't have in your mind, or you maybe want to have some more support around how to use this tool, because as I believe, Syncari is a very powerful tool, and it's something that really should try to be understood fully and thoroughly so that the power of it can show up in your own data place, in your own data management. Of course, you've got your profile options. You can go ahead and look at your profile, put the information there. In the bottom left, if you wanted to expand these out so you can see what the names of them are because you're not familiar with the icons just yet, of course you can do that. There's also the option to go into the settings. It's really kind of an admin section where you're going to look at what's going on with your platform, your specific instance, and you can get some information that way. So hopefully that overview was quick and simple and gives you a better understanding of what Syncari has to offer and where you can do what. Please check out some of our other videos where we go a little bit deeper into each one of these features. And especially within the Sync Studio, we really want to showcase the power of these pipelines from the entity level and the field level. This will allow you to really transform and control your data and overall give you a better sense of data management at your organization. Thanks again. My name's Nate. I'm with Shine On Consulting. We are a consulting firm that focuses primarily on marketing operations. However, we also have a very new and upcoming section of our business, which is the revenue operations. And you're welcome to reach out to me directly or just go to our general email, and we'll be able to get in touch with you if you're interested in getting some more support within your Syncari instance adoption. Hopefully this was nice for you guys. Have a good one.